Heh, yeah, Flyers fans, Canucks fans, be prepared to become each other's best friends over the next calendar year or so. A lot of Canucks fans have already gotten themselves familiar with the Boston Bruins. Go figure. Lindholm and Zadorov and DeBrusk and Heinen and Forbort will do that to you. But what I wanted to do in this video was go out there and talk about the ideas of trades. Because with Vancouver being in a spot where they just lost out on their head coach, he yeeted all the way over to the Philadelphia Flyers. He said in his press conference, "I've always been a Flyer at heart." And we can get into the nitty-gritty details as to whether or not he may have used the Vancouver Canucks to get his ultimate goal, but we'll save that for another day. What I wanted to do was talk about the idea of Vancouver trading a guy over to Philadelphia to play with his top head coach buddy Tocchet. Now, it comes to no surprise to anybody who has been paying attention to the YouTube channel, but we made a video 4 days ago talking about Conor Garland. How it's not looking good for the pending Canucks UFA of next year to potentially come back and re-sign with the team. Conor Garland is in an interesting spot because he's making $5 million till the end of next season. He's making 4.95, and he's 29 years old. The next contract he gets will probably be the contract that sets him up for life. And after 4 years with the Vancouver Canucks posting up a consistent 46-plus point campaign every single year, Conor Garland is a valuable NHL piece. He works hard, he spins, he has a muffin of a shot, terrible shot there, but he can still score goals in tight. He still had a hat trick to end off the season against the Arizona Coyotes those years ago. He has been a very consistent player. But the upper ceiling on Conor Garland isn't really that high. Maybe if you have a Stanley Cup winning team, Garland is a third-line winger. If he's a top 6 winger on your team heading into the playoffs, your team is probably not going to go too far, if you get what I'm saying. And even though he is a very versatile and capable player, he's a lot more of a straight-lined, hard-nosed player than he is a skilled-up, super dynamic, offensive-generating machine. And after making the video talking about Garland's comments on Donnie and Dolly, where he was asked about whether or not he'd want to sign long-term with Vancouver, and his response was like, yeah, we'll see, I'll let my agent handle it, yada yada yada. It was a lot more of an, okay, it doesn't look like this guy wants to come back kind of ordeal. And now, we have ideas getting tossed out there that say, hey, if Conor Garland really likes Rick Tocchet, which he spoke very highly about Toc in that Donnie and Dolly interview, he had Tocchet twice. Once in Arizona, when Tocchet helped Garland break into the NHL, and then once in Vancouver, where, of course, Garland excelled under Tocchet playing with Dakota Joshua and Bluger last season. Conor Garland is a big fan of the way Rick Tocchet coaches his hockey teams. And it doesn't take a genius to understand why Tocchet absolutely loves Conor Garland too. Their styles fit each other like a glove. So would it not be realistic to think about Vancouver in some sort of a trade-like capacity with Philadelphia? If the Canucks are not going to be in a spot to be able to re-sign Garland in a year, if it's likely that he ends up leaving the team at some point in free agency, is there not a realistic shot that he could get traded over to Philly? Let's go over to a piece published on CanucksDaily.com. This was from 2 days ago. Edward Jackson talks about a trade idea that was floating around on Canucks social media that would send Garland to reunite with Tocchet on Philadelphia. The article says this: Canucks GM Patrik Allvin is going to be quite busy this summer in order to fix the team's roster heading into 25-26. While adding a second-line center as a priority, Allvin and the management group will also be looking at other areas of the roster that need to be addressed, potentially bringing in someone with size, grit, and ability to produce in their top 6 forward group. As of July 1st, the Canucks are eligible to sign Garland to an extension, 1 year before he's set to become a UFA. Recently, he was asked about his future on Donnie and Dolly, and he seemed non-committal about his future with the Canucks. And the article gives him a little bit of slack here, probably because it's something that he hasn't given much thought to just yet, but as he enters the final year of his deal, could he potentially be a trade chip for Allvin? In a post on Twitter on Wednesday, Vancouver Canucks fan at Dominic171888 shared their proposal involving Garland that would see him return closer to home out east with former head coach Rick Tocchet. "Hear me out," the tweet says. "Garland to Philadelphia for Owen Tippett. Garland will go back east with Tocchet. Meanwhile, the Canucks add a legitimate top six winger with size." Now, the tweet that Dominic ended up posting actually got deleted. I think he got flamed a lot for posting this take, especially since it's Garland plus to Philly for Owen Tippett and not just Garland for Tippett. But this is one of these things where I think it would be a total win-win situation if it were to go down. Owen Tippett is a young guy, 26 years old. He's bigger, 6'1", 209, signed on till the end of 2031-2032, making $6.2 million a year. And he's had roughly the same amount of points as Conor Garland over the past few years. The only difference is Owen Tippett is a lot more of a goal scorer than he is a playmaker, and Garland, of course, is a little bit smaller. So, when you think about the names here, of course, this is why the Twitter user said, hey, Garland plus for Tippett. If you're getting similar production, but a bigger frame and a longer cost-controlled contract, especially one that could age well, as Tippett's only making $6.2 million, then you would probably say that Tippett is more valuable than Garland. That's why you go plus. It's Garland plus extra stuff for Tippett. The thing is, though, I don't know if Philadelphia Flyers fans would be too keen on trading Tippett away, especially since they just signed the guy to the contract extension that kicked in this season. He's a long-term piece for the Philadelphia Flyers. He is signed on to this team until he's 33 years old, and he's probably going to be a consistent 50-point, 25-plus goal guy. He could even hit 30. He's only 26, so there still is time for him to round himself out, and especially if the Flyers are able to continuously build and get some production out of their top guys, this could be an option here. But again, it's Rick Tocchet coaching Philadelphia. He's going to reprogram the brain of Matvei Michkov and turn that guy into a 30-point grinder. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not Tocchet's offensive system is able to translate with these kinds of guys. And if the Flyers feel from day one that it won't, could Owen Tippett be an option? I don't know. One thing's for sure, though, he certainly would be a good fit in the Vancouver Canucks system with his goal-scoring edge and his size. The Canucks built up on size last year on their D-core, with Zadorov, Soucy, Myers, and not to mention Ian Cole, who wasn't really big, but he was still a guy who played big. That D-core stood out really well last season. Now this year they had Desharnais and Forbort, and some of these guys were better than others, but now they want to round out the forward core in terms of size. And if you have a player like Conor Garland, whose commitment to Vancouver is already being questioned by the fan base, we don't know necessarily if he's even interested in signing a contract extension, why not send him over to Philadelphia? Maybe not even for Owen Tippett, but just for anybody. Give him the opportunity to play in a system that he likes, and give Vancouver the opportunity to potentially get a bigger, more solidified frame in their forward core. Conor Garland is a good player. He plays his heart out. He's a very valuable piece in terms of the leadership that he brings, as well as the momentum that he's able to swing. But on a Stanley Cup championship caliber team, he's probably not anything more than a third-line guy. And maybe you can say that is by design, but ultimately, if the Canucks felt like this is a guy who is replaceable or he is inevitably going to leave, they might need to pull the trigger. So, who knows? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the idea of Conor Garland over to Philadelphia, and do you think a trade for a guy like Owen Tippett, for example, would make sense in this situation? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.